Latinoamérica. So please give a big round of applause to Nativo Lopez.
Good afternoon. Today, the festivities around Cinco de Mayo, some of you are probably not even familiar with the phrase or the date, but it's basically the 5th of May. Any of us that took high school Spanish, we should know at least a couple of those terms: Cinco, 5 de Mayo, of May. But it's a celebration that, ironically, it's not as festively celebrated in Mexico as it is here in the United States. And I like to say that actually it's a holiday created by the beer distribution companies in the United States back in the 1970s that became popular during the then Chicano movement to celebrate historic events that gave relevance to the cultural awakening and a cultural social movement that became very prominent in the 60s and the 1970s. Why celebrate? Why note this particular date in history? Because it was a very important date of recollection, of memory of a battle in the city of Puebla to defeat invading French forces in Mexico at that period of its history. A continuing battle to retain its independence from colonial powers. If at previous stages it had won the battle against Spain, at that particular juncture in its history, it was fighting the battle against the French invasion to dominate the country, and other influences as well: German, the English, continued the Spanish, and even the United States. It's all about a historical memory for a people that exist, that reside, that work, that contribute in this society, similar to the historical memory that we jog when we celebrate the 4th of July. They're not analogous dates or celebrations, but they are analogous in terms of the ability of people to retain a historical memory about important historical dates in the development of its history. If a people per se are not familiar, are not aware with its historical antecedents, it cannot be aware and understand its current situation, nor can it be fully cognizant of its direction or where it's headed in history. That's the importance of why this date is celebrated probably in most locations where Mexicans reside in the United States. In fact, ironically, the state of New York was never a place of predominance of Mexican population. It's always been the Southwest, because obviously the Southwest currently of the United States was once an integral part of Mexico, of the nation of Mexico. But today, or actually this past weekend, for Cinco de Mayo, there was huge celebrations of this date in Manhattan, New York. Why? Because there are now hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Mexico that reside in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, and other boroughs of New York and upstate New York, a flourishing community, mainly from the state of Puebla and the state of Guerrero. Tremendous contributions to the economy of the state of New York, and they were all out in great fanfare celebrating Cinco de Mayo this past weekend. If an oppressor society is capable of denying the history of an oppressed society, it is then in the position to manipulate that oppressed society for its own needs. That has been the historical experience of Mexicans and certainly of immigrants in the United States, and that's why